In today's episode of The Classics, we have a very special guest with us. I have known him for a couple of years. He started his long career with a watch giant brand and then moved on from industry to industry and has worked in varied form of domains like ranging from e-commerce to hardware, and currently is the VP Marketing of Revv, a self-driving startup. We welcome Amit Kalia. So Amit, I want to start with your professional experience first. So your journey is very interesting in terms of, the varied industries that you have seen. From a liquor industry, which we were talking about earlier. So, from a liquor industry to an e-commerce, which is largely digital driven. And then from hardware to, a very young self-driven type car startup.
Yeah.
So, how do you see it as your professional growth? की इस experience में आपको कहाँ से क्या take away मिला, and how did this journey pan out for you over the years?
Sure. It's been a very, as you rightly said, varied kind of an experience. And while I started off working in typical FMCGs, when I started off working, it was Citizen Watches, the Japanese company, and the work, वहाँ पे जो काम होता है is done in very traditional sense. I mean, there is a retail market, there is a product, there is a buyer, and then there is an end customer. From there, I made a jump into a larger FMCG, which is Diageo, selling liquor. But by that time, e-commerce was on the rise.
Correct.
When e-commerce came on board, the entire landscape of how marketing is done in this country and probably globe has changed. Versus a time when we were looking at a traditional campaign is involving a TV, is involving a print, is involving a BTL or perhaps a TTL, which was the talked about line at that time. The focus of discussion shifted from all those elements to very micro elements which were coming up in terms of digital campaigns. Performance marketing became a very strong pillar.
Sure.
Digital marketing, influencer marketing, which today is evolved out of social, came on board from very early days. Because influencer marketing always lived in TV era as well. All these, the guys who are today reviewing the phones, celebrities, they were existing in the offline formats as well. But it just transposed itself to a social marketing today. And I guess the transposition of my career is a reflection of how the times have also changed. And fortunately enough for me, I've been able to keep pace with that. And that was where Diageo and Flipkart thing was. And now I guess I have learned one thing, that it's very critical for you to be updated every day and keep on moving with the trends, because nothing is going to stay here forever. So we keep learning every day and we keep unlearning every day.
Absolutely. So you mentioned, how digital has changed the entire landscape of marketing. And probably, with your corporate experience of so many years, probably you had never thought of it when you were studying back then in college days. So what was your mindset when you were studying, and how did you see your, your career back then, and how did you see it change? So what was your mindset back in your college days?
It's a very interesting question. In fact, when I was studying, I was very passionate for brands. The stories the brand tell. Some of the few brands that I really used to love were like Apple, IBM, Nike. They were telling a story, right? Just do it. It's a story in itself. And the whole schematics of what this Just Do It is all about, what the logo is all about. So I was like, one thing in my college I was known for was, I used to see logos and I used to identify that what logo is this. I used to see a Maserati logo which nobody in the class or in the school would have heard of. I would say this is a Maserati logo. I will see a tire of a BMW and tell this is a BMW. I was passionate to that extent. That was the starting of my passion for this industry. But ultimately, it evolved into something where I wanted to be the guy who's telling a story.
Correct.
I have still lived my life for the last 15 years trying to be true to that passion. I think I would want to do that, and that's something which keeps me motivated. So when I describe myself, when people ask me, what do you do? I said I keep telling stories, and that's what I want to do.
Absolutely. So, that resounds very well with how I have seen my passion turn into, a profession, and eventually how I started earning from it. And very interestingly, you mentioned storytelling as a form of marketing, which I speak about a lot. But, like this is a personal view, and I would want your thoughts on it. So, don't you think it's a bit, there's a bit of a dilemma, because we are talking about genuine stories which relate to the customers that brands tell. And then there is all this new wave of influencers, bloggers, Instagrammers, basically how we, how we always say that social media is a fake profile and the fakeness that we bring out. So do you think there is a dilemma in how you tell stories as a brand and how you use influencers or social media to tell those stories?
Yeah, I think today there is a very fine line between creation of content
Correct.
and amplification of content. In fact, more often than not, a lot of people call themselves we are the content creators.
Correct.
It's important to know that we all need to ask ourselves the question, are we really the content creators?
Yeah.
Or are we merely giving it an adaptation that we feel the content deserves
Yeah.
and putting it in the front?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people today who call themselves influencers,
Exactly.
original content creators,
Exactly.
fall into the second category where they're just merely looking at their perspective of the content and
Yeah.
giving it an adaptation and putting it across.
Correct.
That to me is a bigger call out, which I think the line is shifting
Yeah.
towards.
So, I would want to talk a bit about the e-commerce industry that you have largely, been a part of very
Yeah.
actively. And I would want to understand from you, because you were in the e-commerce industry when it was at the prime.
Yeah.
Now, in the last couple of months, we have seen a lot of competition, a lot of acquisitions, major
Yeah.
acquisitions,
Yeah.
such as that of Flipkart, and then also a lot of closing down of e-commerce startups.
Yeah.
In this landscape, how do you see e-commerce panning out in the next 2 or say 5 years? And do you think India still has a space for say a new e-commerce company?
There'll always be room for one more.
Okay.
There will always be. I kind of belong to the school of thought where I refuse to accept that everything that can be done is done already.
Correct.
And I draw a parallel to what e-commerce is today with how the retail industry started in India. When the large formats like
Yeah.
Shoppers Stops and West Side, all these
Correct.
guys started off.
Yeah.
People thought that this is it. This is going to be the end of it. I mean, this is how all of us will shop in future.
Correct.
But e-commerce changed that pretty soon. As we move along, we've realized that now offline malls are becoming bigger, and the large format stores are an important part, still an important part, but they are pretty much now there is a competitors mall also.
Yeah.
Now people are gravitating towards specific shops. We are gravitating towards small formats which are exclusive.
Correct.
I think e-commerce is going to gravitate towards that. I don't think that a one shop for all stop is going to be the solution for everything.
Correct.
I know that some of the shops have closed down and some of the e-commerce players have shut the shops. It's also to do with the adaptability of Indian customers at this stage.
Correct.
Today they want to go to one place and they want to have one app where they can maybe go and purchase everything that they want
But
to.
as a part of the same, discussion, I would also want to bring this up, how bigger e-commerce players, like, Pepperfry, Chumbak, which are largely online only, have now started doing their offline integration
Yeah.
and opening up their own stores. So,
Yeah.
isn't that like more of an indication that e-commerce probably has saturated for them? That is why they are doing it.
Oh, e-commerce isn't saturated. I think the idea is how can we involve the customers at different angles today.
Sure.
By that I mean that today the customer is involved with us on an e-commerce transaction online.
Correct.
Via phone.
Correct.
That's limiting.
Correct.
So why can't I increase my availability to the customer even if he's going offline stores?
Correct.
I think that's the idea which is pushing this. E-commerce itself is growing at a huge pace,
True.
but nobody stops us from increasing that pace to another notch
Correct.
by being present offline.
Yeah, correct. So even Amazon is testing one of their stores in US where they're integrating it with technology.
Yeah,
offline.
that
So
just makes
that's
good sense, right? When you are at that scale and you are doing huge amount of numbers online, when you are present suddenly a store in a city
Yeah.
or a cyber city,
Yeah.
people are bound to look at that. Yeah, here. I can come here if I want to pick up.
Correct. Interesting. So, I want to relate this with a very recent news that we have all seen, that, how Thomas Cook in UK filed for bankruptcy yesterday. And, I would want to, so this is, I think, personally, I think it is largely because of how online OTAs have taken the place and Thomas Cook could not keep the pace with that transition. In that relevance, I would want to understand from you, because you in your career you have switched from largely on offline businesses, traditional businesses, to online businesses. So how important do you think is in the current scenario of such rapid transformation, is it important for business to transform themselves, and how do traditional industries keep pace with that?
The question has the answer itself. I mean, if you do not change yourself with the times,
Correct.
you will go out. I mean, the Thomas example is one such example. I'm sure there are many other businesses
Absolutely.
which are more than 100 years old, but they fail to keep pace with the times,
Yeah.
and they have to go out.
True.
It's fairly simple writing on the wall, and I think what is happening is it's again connected to the previous discussion we just had. The customer is a customer. He has limited time. Right now, e-commerces are talking through the phone.
Correct.
Offlines are talking through the offlines.
Correct.
There has to be a bridge between the two. Offlines are trying to create that bridge via being present online, and online guys are trying to create an identity which is offline.
Correct.
There has to be an omni-channel presence kind of a mode,
Yeah.
which has to connect basically. It's a bridgement of what, and as long as brands no matter how old they are, they're able to connect that and move with the customer wherever the customer is today. It's phone today, it might be your smart TV tomorrow. If the world is moving towards that, brand has to be present there.
So it's basically more customer acquisition, no matter what the channel is.
I don't call it customer acquisition. I think, for example, for automobile industry, it might be, some might say that customization is the way to go. I would want to dictate the kind of radials I'll have on my car, the kind of dashboard I should sit in, the kind of seats that I need, or the lighting that I have. It's as per my wish. Today, can I do that? I can still do that. But is it that accessible to me to get it done at the whiff of a finger? I don't think so. Can it change the way industry is today? Maybe not. But can it dictate that the way an automobile OEM is able to give you that experience? Will that give me a positive rub-off and tell me, hey, this guy is giving me something really kick-ass? I think the answer lies there.
Interesting. So, I'll come to very specific to marketing, which is your expertise. And, as a consultant, a lot of clients come to me because interestingly, you mentioned performance marketing in the start. And, a lot of people come, and this whole wave of performance marketing has led to in a belief that, आप पैसा फेंको और आपको leads मिल जाएंगे, आपको app installs मिल रहे हैं, Google सब वो paid promotions कर रहे हैं. So in this entire scenario where people want to, just spend money and get sales, how important or relevant do you still think is branding per se for a company? Or can they just spend on Google and Facebook ads and get their sales or conversions?
The answer is very clear in my head. It's absolutely not possible to spend money and just keep getting leads if you're not working on the brand. Okay. It's very straightforward. Today, there is a goodness that comes with creation of a brand.
Correct.
Now, that goodness on a scale of 0 to 100, maybe 10. So you can reap the benefits of SEM proportion to that 10 out of 100.
Correct.
I mean, your CTRs will be lower. Your, in other words, CTR will get improved as your brand goes higher. The cost of acquisition for a customer gets marginally improved if your brand is not moving, or is brand moving, then it will get improved drastically. As the brand moves, the entire funnel or entire performance metrics channels, they start showing much aggressive improvement once the brand moves. Absolutely. It has to be a brand first area where we are today. Otherwise, we're just trying to tell. It's like if you go to an offline market today, like 10 people surround you and say, hey, this is what it is, this is what I have, this is what you need to buy, this is and then they start talking to you in terms of 10 rupees off, 15 rupees off, 20 rupees off. Will you really consider one of them basis price or the value that they bring in?
Correct.
The value is clearly going to come once you start talking in the language of a brand. That's where the value creation is. And then you start going, hey, I am X, but you know what? I'll give you this 10% off. That's a decision which you make right then and there, but needs to have the brand element there before you can talk to the language of discount.
Sure. So in terms of your current experience with the self-drive car rental company, Revv, which is already very popular, doing really well.
Thank you.
So, what I want to understand, again, from a marketing standpoint, so how do you see the entire branding and performance marketing going hand in hand, first of all?
Yeah.
And secondly, what do you see the strategy for a company like Revv in probably the next 2 years from a marketing standpoint?
Okay. I think the answer partly answered that already, because I believe that the story is incomplete if I just keep focusing on milking it up from performance marketing. We need to create pathways for the next 6 months to 1 year to 5 years, which will come via the creation of brands. So I think that said, we don't plan to deviate a lot from this. Every company has a certain growth charter, has a certain scalability as per where we are today in the lifetime of this company. I need to build my brand in accordance to that.
Correct.
I can't be aspiring to build an Apple today when I know that the stature of an Apple is a few years away. I'll have to be where I am, create what I deserve today. As long as that balance is in tow, I think the story of brand versus performance marketing will keep on going. So for us, I don't see that changing in the next 6 months. I don't see it changing in the next 2 years or 5 years. That will have to happen in the next times.
So, a lot of our viewers would be interested in, knowing from you with your experience. Any very interesting problem statement or case study that you came across in your marketing experience, and then you solved it with a strategy, and how you tackled that particular challenge in terms of marketing?
Wow, that's interesting. I think while I'm a little confused on which one to put closer to.
So there have been many.
There have been many. In fact, the closest one is when I was just out of my college and I started working in the first job, the Citizen Watches. There was a time when this was 2006 and 7, and this was a time when the downturn, global economic recession was kind of hitting us. the sales were going down. Citizen for is a mid-luxury segment kind of a watch. Watches itself is undergoing tremendous pressure today because they're facing competition from the electronic side of the story. But the sales are going down. One area for a newbie brand storyteller guy is to look at all these and say, okay, I'll still keep doing marketing, but then ROI on the marketing is less because the orders are less while my cost is going up or at the same time. All this culminated to something which is like either maintain a status quo, or we happen to go to Hong Kong, which is our Indian head offices, and every year we used to get new products.
Okay.
While you sell a product which is somewhere close to a 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 in India, here was a product which is about a 60,000 or 80,000.
Correct.
And all the guys who are going to get the product in India say that, oh, this will not sell. This is something way beyond Indian market. Here comes me with the USP of that watch being, that watch will never run out of charge because it will run for 1,000 years, and the charge for that watch is it auto-corrects itself with the atomic clock of that country.
Okay.
So it never shows you the wrong time. The error percentage, if I remember it correctly, was 1 second in the 1,000 years. That was the error percentage of that watch. I said this is a great deployment. And plus the main feature was, if you are coming into that country, the watch will auto-correct the time as per the country that you are in.
Wow.
So I thought that this watch is tremendous. I mean, the guy who's traveling from India to Germany, from India to US, from India to Russia, this watch will self-correct itself wherever he is without me asking what's the local time and all that.
So
I saw great USP. I came back to India with firm footings that we need this watch. Although this is a 60,000-70,000 watch, we need this watch. And I took it upon myself that, hey, your sales are going down, but that doesn't mean that you don't introduce new products. We launched that product. To my credit, it was a pilot project was given to me. My MD said, okay, you can do this. And there was a few quantities ordered for the entire year. To everybody's happiness, we sold off the quantities in about a month.
Wow.
And of course, this translates into revenue growth. This translates into happiness among the dealership because, hey, there is a product which is selling and which is probably turning out to be a success than your traditional product which is there, but probably facing a downturn.
So at that point of time, what was your major strategy in doing this? Like probably like in the terms, like asking in the specifics, like was it TVC or was it radio, or how did you what was the strategy?
So this is a product which needed a little bit of an education.
Correct.
You need to tell the customer that wherever you go, the watch will follow you and it will correct the time. You can communicate that via a typical print. Watches are very heavy on magazines and newspaper. You can do that via a column ad on newspaper as well or on a magazine. But what you can effectively do that is getting a lot of people, the editors or people who review watches, to review the watch and write about it. What that does is that creates a very impartial authority kind of telling the customers about that, hey, I reviewed this watch and this is an excellent piece of manufacturing. And I recommend that. Instead of you saying, hey, buy this watch because it has XYZ, somebody else is saying that, hey, it has all the features, but this feature stands out and that's why I like this watch. And I massively created that campaign where we focused particularly on a lot of reviewers, and we created a magazine plan and a print plan and of course the BTL plan at the shops itself. It created the ripples. I think that the education bit in the campaign created that effect that customers understood what the watch is all about and USP is all about.
Again, I think it was more of, telling a story which is relatable to a customer and then making the effect happen. So, interestingly, so now I want to, come to a point where, I would like to have your peace of mind on, how you think the marketing industry panning out in the next few years for young marketeers. And I'm talking about people, who would be exactly your juniors in this industry. What do you think would be an exciting opportunity for them that they should explore, and what do you think is going to be the future of this industry?
I think from and I'll start with with an attitude bit. It's we all get fixated somewhere in our life with what we are comfortable with.
Correct.
I think of all the sciences today, marketing is one science where we cannot do that.
Correct.
It's very easy, very comfortable to be just be good with where you are today and keep doing the things which you are accustomed to doing. I think that's the first thing that all the guys who are out there need to do that. And I came from a background where we used to do things in a certain way. And at FMCG, you have a brand plan, you have a 3-year plan, you have a 5-year plan, you have an approach, you have everything fixed. To a place today where I do not know what will happen tomorrow.
Absolutely.
And I'm learning every day. Today, the talk of the town is influencer marketing. Tomorrow, it might be something else. Tomorrow, Google might bring back something interesting in email. It might become like the rage in the industry. The most important thing which I feel for the guys today is to learn and unlearn stuff.
Correct.
And there is a cycle to this. There is a cyclicity to this. As long as that's happening, that's going to prevail. That's going to prevail.
And I think, what I can take from your entire experience and what you just said is that technology, having a know-how of technology and the changing technology is very important to be a good marketeer now.
Yes.
And that can't be done away with.
That can't be done away with, yeah.
So, to kind of wrap it up, in very short, I want to know from you, so you have worked in different industries. For the next 2 years, say, if I ask you what are going to be the two most interesting segments to work on. It could be, for example, I'm talking about the specifics in a way. It could be food tech, fintech, healthcare. So what are the two segments that you think are going to be very exciting in the coming times?
I think the major one, which is going to be the talk of the town, is where I am in the center of. I think the automobile industry is going through a massive shift, and especially the ownership and the OEMs, they are going into a massive shift.
Okay.
And today we are seeing that happen. It will evolve into something much bigger. Subscription is the buzzword today. It will become even bigger. Okay. I think that's the industry which is going to be watch out for. And I have a personal hunch that fintech is going to evolve into something big. We've seen pieces of brilliance from fintech here and there, but nothing has come up like really towering up as it should. And I expect, and that's a personal opinion, I think that's where the next 2 years something big is going to come up.
We would like to take a farewell from Amit. It was a very interesting session. Thanks a lot, Amit. Any words for our viewers?
Well, I think keep rocking where you are. You're in a very happening place. India is the place to be, and e-commerce industry, especially omni-channel, is the way to be. So keep rocking it and keep learning and unlearning it.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pavas.
Thank you.